In a global health scare such as this newly discovered and largely mysterious novel coronavirus, the first to go or to be severely affected will be travel and trade. Tonight on Politics as Usual, we focus on travel. I'm Pia Hontiveros. We have here in the studio Tourism Undersecretary for Tourism Development, Benito Bengzon Jr. And later on in the show, the President of the Tourism Congress of the Philippines, Jojo Clemente III, will join us in a bit via Viber video call. But first, Undersecretary Bengzon, good evening, sir. Thank you very much for being here.
Good evening, Pia. Thanks for having me here.
Yes, well, USEC, I'm sure travel is affected is an understatement, right?
It is an understatement, and we're seeing some cancellations already from different markets.
When you say some cancellations, they must be quite big in terms of the numbers because hindi ito maliit na bagay. Di ba?
Well, the hardest hit, obviously, is the inbound traffic coming from China. When you look at total arrivals to the Philippines, Chinese tourists would account for about 22% of all foreign visitors to the Philippines. So with the termination of the flights, you can just imagine the impact.
Okay, so ngayon pa lang, yung 22% na yan, severely, parang maraming natapyas na doon. Would you call this like practically a shutdown of the Chinese tourism market?
Well, practically.
Or are we approaching those proportions?
Well, practically, because with the government directive to terminate or to temporarily stop flights between China and the Philippines, Hong Kong, Macau and the Philippines, then parang mong sinara yung gripo eh. No? So we're seeing the effects of the ban.
Okay, but it's not going to affect just the flights coming from China and its SARs, but also because they're saying any person who's been to China or any of its SARs in the last 14 days. So even if they, kung connecting flights or if you check their travel history, pag sinabi nilang, so you turn them away at the airports.
Correct. No, you're basically looking at two groups. The first group would be those directly coming from the three areas that I mentioned. And then the second one would be those who had spent the last 14 days in these areas. So when you look at the numbers, it can actually look, they're actually bigger than what will be reported initially.
How sure are we that, that people will always be honest about their travel history?
Well, that's a big challenge, and we're really hoping that our health authorities will be able to come up with necessary safety protocols.
But like one of those safety protocols at the airport, they check temperature. They scan people's temperatures, and and we've heard this said. Now there are some people who are asymptomatic. They will not have any fever. Even for example, they arrived yesterday, wala silang fever. Maya't maya, nag-develop pala sila ng coronavirus, hindi ba? So.
That will be the bigger challenge, tracking down those who don't show any symptoms. But what we've done is we've instructed our offices in Beijing and in Shanghai to monitor all the movements the last couple of weeks. Of course, prospectively, there are no flights to talk about anymore. But apart from those flights into China that were to and from China that we're monitoring, we're also looking at the movement from the other source markets.
Kanina you said 22% of Chinese nationals. Is there any other big number or big figure, or yun na yung pinakamalaki?
Yun na yung pinakamalaki. The biggest would be, of course, when you look at total arrivals to the Philippines, Korea is the biggest, China's number 2, the US is number 3. But if you're looking at those countries that are included in the temporary ban, you're looking at China, which generates about 4,500 tourists a day. You're looking at Hong Kong, which generates maybe 700, 800 tourists a day. So pag pinagsama-sama mo yan, medyo malaki din yan.
Korea, the biggest.
Yes.
That's not yet affected.
It's not yet affected, no. Well, there are a few cancellations, pero tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung pagpasok dito.
Okay. This is going to affect also, syempre, yung parang the growth. You had very nice projections kasi for the tourism industry. Are you, can you now tell us what your projections are, predictions, or we're not yet at that stage? We're just describing how things are going to happen, literally in words.
Well, right now, the priority is really to make sure that we coordinate very closely with the health authorities so that we'll have a better idea of how this will impact not only on tourism but across all sectors. But when you look at the bigger picture, what really you want is to make sure that tourism activities are normalized not as soon as possible, as soon as we are given the green light. In other words, after our health authorities have already addressed all the issues, our commitment is to make sure that we bring back livelihood, especially at the community level. But in the meantime that we're taking a hit, one thing that we can do is to promote domestic tourism. Encourage Filipinos to move around the country so that occupancy rates of the hotels and resorts are still at a level that will allow them to
given all those
operate viably.
given all those cancellations.
Given all the cancellations coming from the major markets. And this is something that has been done, not only here in the Philippines, but other countries that are similarly situated. They focus or they shift to domestic tourism.
Well, it's interesting that you say that as soon as you are given the green light or the go signal, then you can put things back into high gear. Hindi naman sa like you're saying, not right away, pero pag okay na lahat, kaya lang last week there was this Hong Kong university professor who was saying that we haven't even seen the peak of this. We're talking about like April or May. I'm not aware if there has been a change in that, but para bang nag-uumpisa pa lang, so April, May, that's like 2, 3, 4 months from now, and that is our summer break.
Right,
so
right.
Apart from saying that let's encourage domestic tourism, Pinoys to, see the country, the rest of the country that they haven't seen. What else can we do?
Well, in the meantime, we're also talking to the hotels and the resorts and the tour operators and travel agents because there's a lot of cancellations being reported now. And if there are cancellations, there are cancellation fees. And normally when you're faced with this kind of a problem, what you want is cooperation among all the stakeholders. So maybe they'll relax their rules or their conditions, terms and conditions when it comes to cancellation fees.
Not charge the cancellation fees anymore.
Well, either that or apply it for future bookings. But I think what's important is for everybody to adopt a very cooperative stance because we're really going through some challenges at the moment.
Those are the key words, a cooperative stance and stakeholder. Everyone is a stakeholder here anyway. So even if the hotels, the travel agencies will lose money now, parang it's for everybody's benefit anyway.
Yes.
No? Okay. Yusek Bangson, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to speak to Giorgio Clemente III of the Tourism Congress of the Philippines. And then, Yusek, we'll talk to you again in the last segment. We're going to take a quick break, like I was saying. Pause as usual. Be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Pulse as usual. We now speak to the president of the Tourism Congress of the Philippines, Giorgio Clemente III. Good evening, Giorgio, and welcome to Pulse as usual.
Good evening, Pia.
Okay, let's begin with what are the numbers, how do we say this, pre-NCOV and the numbers in the middle of this, of NCOV, or in the age of the novel coronavirus?
Well, in terms of total arrivals, we're still getting the numbers in, but based on the estimates that we have, if the virus lasts for another 3 months or until March, we're looking at about a 20 billion pesos loss if we get that from last year's figures. No?
Wow, 20 billion pesos. And just last week, there was a professor at a Hong Kong university who was saying that we haven't even seen the peak of this, and that peak would be sometime April or May. So we are looking at that projection.
Well, as we're looking at it now, I think the virus has a lesser chance as the warmer weather sets into the Philippines. So as far as the Philippines is concerned, we might see a bit of a lessening around March when our summer season starts to set in. Baka his reference was during their colder period pa in Hong Kong, the other northern countries, no? But as we saw in SARS in 2002, since it hit almost during the summer, our numbers were lower as far as infections were concerned.
Okay, so if we say that travel is going to be affected, that is an understatement because like
Oh
you
yeah,
said, 20
definitely.
billion peso loss.
Yes, definitely. We're starting to feel the effects now. We've seen already that the China market has virtually trickled off, and other markets, our main markets like Korea, some from Japan have already started their cancellations. And then from the Western markets, we're seeing a little bit of the cancellations, but not as much as we were anticipating. Hopefully, it stays that way.
Well, Undersecretary Bengzon of the Tourism Department is here, and he was saying China makes up for about 22% of the market. And you were saying that the China market is very down or almost gone. Is that correct?
Yes, for all intents and purposes, with the travel ban that was already been imposed, and then from the other countries, no, the originating countries also, I think there have also been some policies about traveling abroad. So yes, we expect talaga the China market to dwindle for the next few weeks or a month or so.
Undersecretary Bengzon was also saying that there's going to be an appeal that will be made or already has been made perhaps to like hotels and travel agencies because syempre pag may cancellation, meron cancellation fee, no? So baka naman
Yes.
pwedeng, and I am paraphrasing, no? Baka naman pwedeng i-waive, no? Parang ganun ano, yung Sec Bengzon, i-waive na muna. Because we are all stakeholders here anyway. And well, this is a global health scare that
Yes.
doesn't distinguish among businesses or industries.
Yeah, we're making the appeal to our stakeholders, no, to be more lenient as far as refund policies, cancellation policies, rebooking policies are concerned. This is something that no one really expected
Wanted.
nor wanted.
Right.
And I think it's only right that we sort of relax our rules. Now is not the time to really make profits out of this. And we also ask for the understanding then of our clients because we also have to survive in some manner. So um, we all have to work together, and the industry is also working together to minimize the impact to our respective businesses as well.
In terms of surviving this, Undersecretary Bengson also mentioned that they're asking or they're trying to work on a plan so that what we can do is encourage Filipino nationals who are here in the country to go around more. Well, there are many of us who haven't been to many places, many cities, many provinces. So is that something that you can look at also?
Yes, in fact, we already had a meeting this morning with another industry partner. I'm not at liberty to divulge yet, but domestic travel is something that is definitely in the works. It will be probably the market that we will depend on for the next few weeks or months. And we are going to work together, no, to stimulate it. We are hoping that our kababayans are open to traveling. We will definitely be making very irresistible offers. So hopefully that helps in stimulating that market while we ride out the storm.
What are you not at liberty to divulge right now? The plan or this industry partner or like what
The industry
exactly like?
partner, the industry partner.
Oh, ano to? 0%, zero airfare. What is this? Come on, give us more than that.
Yes, we'll try to we'll do our best to get the best prices that we can offer to the market. Sabi ko nga kanina, let's throw revenue margins and revenue management out the window for the next few weeks and think about survival for now.
Right, survival, and that will reap you good karma also, no? I mean, if you like waive or be lenient about cancellation fees and then do this and not look too much at the revenue margins, hindi ba? I mean, it all comes back.
Yeah.
It all comes back to you anyway.
Yes, I'm a firm believer in karma and in good vibes. So, if we can give a fair offer if we can offer a win-win solution for both the consumers and the stakeholders, then we're fine with that. of course, ang habol lang naman natin is what we say, basta hindi lugi.
Right, right. Okay. Final words from you, Jojo.
Well, thank you very much, Pia, for having me. First of all, I would like to encourage our kababayans to continue traveling. We all know what the precautions to take naman. Just be conscious of your cleanliness, the washing of hands, face masks. The Philippines is still safe, and we have to remember the figures are not as bad as far as mortality rates are concerned. No, nCoV only has a 2% mortality, while SARS had 10 and MERS-CoV had 35. So the infection rate may be high, but the mortality rate is low. So as long as we take care of ourselves and our bodies, I think it's okay to go around and travel, at least within the country for now.
Yeah, we should see more of the country. You know, like we always say, it's more fun anyway in the Philippines, hindi ba?
In the Philippines, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Jojo
Okay.
Clemente III of Tourism Congress of the Philippines, thank you very much for joining us here in Politics
you.
as Usual.
Thank you, Pia.
We're taking another quick break. Politics as Usual. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Politics as Usual. I'm Pia Hontiveros. Still with us, Undersecretary Bengzon of the Tourism Department. Yusek Bengzon, so pinag-usapan na natin with Jojo Clemente III. First of all, they have asked their stakeholders also to, well, in so many words, waive cancellation fees, be a little more lenient. So this is a good development, no? Everybody feels like everyone is a stakeholder anyway.
Well, as Jojo pointed out, we have to throw out revenue management out the window for now.
For now.
And I think
Pero yun nga lang, wag naman sanang lugi.
Wag naman
masyado.
sanang lugi. It's good that it came from indirectly. Because si Jojo and of course the Tourism Congress of the Philippines has been a very strong partner of the DOT, and we're happy that they're with us, as we go through this very difficult phase. But we're very confident that with the cooperation of all the stakeholders, we'll be able to go through this.
Go through this and survive it.
And survive it.
And then, well, the other piece of good news that he shared with us is that they had a meeting and they're talking about coming up with this plan precisely, as you were saying earlier, for us here in the country to see more of our own country, of the Philippines.
Well, for sure, the hotels and the resorts will take a hit. Their occupancy rates will be affected, and by stimulating domestic tourism, then you're able to keep the hotels and the resorts afloat. You're able to fill up the rooms, you're able to fill up the restaurants and the outlets, and so in a way, you're able to mitigate the negative impact of the decline coming from the major source markets.
Yeah, and like you were saying, a practically repeat also of what Jojo Clemente was saying, that we should be even more encouraged now to go around. After all, we are approaching the summer season. Yes. Many of us are looking for places to go. It's a good time to discover the rest of the country.
Correct, yeah. So I guess that's one advantage that we have. Summer is coming up, and historically, March, April, and May are the peak months for travel. So hopefully this will help offset whatever decline some of the destinations are suffering from some of the traditional markets.
Yeah, but in the meantime, so we have this situation going on. Health authorities are doing their best to monitor and block the entry of people who may be carrying the coronavirus. But there is always that potential, that something may fall through the cracks, right? Is that something that the government is looking at also, and how are we preparing for that?
Well, of course, we defer to the Department of Health, but from the pronouncements of the DOH, we feel that the necessary measures have been put in place. The safety protocols are there. On our part, what's important is for us to be able to monitor the movement of the tourists who entered the country prior to the ban, and to report it to the authorities accordingly. But apart from what I mentioned earlier about stimulating domestic movement, we will continue to market and promote to other source markets that are not as affected as the ones that I mentioned.
Are you aware also of the plan that Georgia was talking about for the local tourists?
Well, normally when we're faced with challenges, that's one of the things that they put together. It's some kind of a recovery plan. And when you put together the recovery plan, normally that's the time that you get all the stakeholders, whether it's the hotels, the resorts, the travel agents, and tour operators, say, okay, we'll relax the rules a little bit. What we want is just to turn the situation around, and we
Right.
can worry about profits down the line.
Yeah, and well, keep the industry alive and get people interested in seeing the rest of the country.
Well, that's what's important, because if you look at the growth rate of Philippine tourism for the first 11 months of 2019, we were growing by about 15.5%, and that's a lot higher than the global average of 4%. So we have to sustain it, and the way to do it is to look at other markets that can compensate for whatever decline.
So instead of going shopping, whether it's at a mall or online,
Yes.
you might as well go shopping for tourist packages here in the country. It's like buying experience, hindi ba?
That's correct.
Yeah. And anyway, if you go shopping online and then it's coming from abroad, usually China, hindi makakarating yung package.
That's
so,
right.
sayang ang
that's right.
pera mo. Ganun.
And I think more importantly, you create a trickle-down effect, because at the end of
Right.
it all, what you want is for local communities to benefit from tourism.
Right, exactly. Undersecretary Beng Zon of the Tourism Department. Sir, thank you very much for joining us
Thank you, Pia.
on Politics as Usual. Maraming salamat. And thank you for watching Politics as Usual. I'm Pia Hontiveros.